And we are back for the episode 5 of the Frictionless Sales Podcast. I am your host and director, Jim McIver here of Lifecycle Sales HQ and Brad Mac Fractional Sales Consulting. Today, I had to have somebody who's in the same lane as I am, but also can bring some extra vibe to the fractional and the sales consultancy game. We've got my friend Renee Manfre from Louisiana out here. Renee, how's it going?
Good, my brother. I appreciate you having me on, brother. You and I have become kind of closer over the last year, and I look forward to keep on talking to you. Every conversation, I learn a little bit more, so I look forward to it. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think we know each other because we've been putting some of the same mastermind groups with Armando. I did an episode with him a little while ago. We got
Right?
that published up. So and I know that you said you've got a really interesting and very long. Your resume is a lot longer than mine, definitely. A long
Right?
history in
Well,
some
I
key
think I'm older than
areas.
you.
That's true. But
I've had more years of struggles.
yeah, yeah. So everything I hear from you is just, hey, this is what to expect, and this is how we're going to reduce that friction, and we're going to get through it. So I know there's a couple of things that we have. So you've done some things from real estate to so I think some contracting. I know you have another brand, and your podcast is "What's Your Passion?" Tell us a little bit about that because you got to catch me up so I can let everybody else see.
Well, what happened was, my background has been in sales and business ever since I can remember. And
Mhm.
I need to really sit down and just start. I was telling my girlfriend and some people today at church, it's like when
Mhm.
you really start going back to when you're a child. I think I've been selling since I've been 5 years old, right? I've been selling my mom on getting me this, or my dad on doing this, or the next door neighbor to give me, if I do this, I'll get you give me this, right? And you don't really think about it until you go back. So my young years have been in health club industry, staffing business, construction, and insurance is really where I kind of really got into right around age 27. And that's where I really kind of got total control of my life financially, six-figure income, stuff like that.
Okay.
And then I rolled into real estate because I started learning how to buy real estate, flip it, fix it up, things of that nature. Through that whole course of years, I was not an AB student, right? I wasn't one of those students to where I love school. I made all these great grades. I was a remedial student through my years, and I realized it didn't. It took me until I was age 27 to realize why I was a bad student in school. It's because certain things, if it didn't have an interest to me, I just didn't excel. But then I realized that certain times when I'd fail a test, my mom would sit down with me for one night and I'd
Yeah.
go back and I'd pass it by an A or B, right? It's because of focus. So
Mhm.
nobody explained to us back then, what 1989, stuff like that, 88, that's when I was my young years. Adderall, you didn't have Adderall. Right?
Well, hold on, you were working in 89, 88.
Dude,
I was born in 86, man.
oh crap. You were just born. You didn't even see, you didn't have all that joy back then. Um, So I think my life has really been, I don't know if you're familiar with John Maxwell, but it's called
Oh yeah.
Failing Forward.
Hmm.
And if you ever read his book or read any of his books, it's really just life is just sometimes when you look at things, I've never really failed. It's just stop, alter, pivot, right? So everything I kind of really have been doing for the last few years, I just love business. That's my passion. That's what I love doing. I've gotten really good at just starting up an LLC, having an idea, putting some people together, running it. So between insurance and real estate, I started teaching and coaching, training insurance agents, real estate agents back then. I was a team leader for Keller Williams. I was one of the first ones to start a Keller Williams office here in our area in Gretna, Louisiana. I was 32 and I was recruiting, training real estate agents at a young age, mainly because me and a partner, we were good at doing real estate investing. And after I started asking some questions to other agents, majority of them never really understood how to do investment property. And these people were in the real estate business for years, right? So I guess over the course of the years, what's your passion came from right at COVID. And I was kind of like just downtime. I had my insurance business, I have a lawn care business. And so at that time we were still kind of working a little bit from the homes. But I said, let me take this opportunity to kind of get into this, right? In this podcasting, I started seeing Grant Cardone, all these different people, and it's like, you know what? If these people can do it, I can do it, right? And
Yeah.
that's what happened. I just kind of started the image. What's your passion? I got a guy from India who I did business with back like 10 years ago, and reached out to him. He helped me kind of create a website, and I just started doing some podcasts. I started doing some basic, teaching and training with coaching with some certain people, and it really just has been one of those experiences through the last few years that I'm trying to perfect it on what it is that people have a passion, but majority of people don't even know what their passion is. It's
Right.
crazy, right? And I think that people they want to be successful, but what I find is that of all the trainings that I've ever done, and I go back again, majority of people started to see me successful at certain things that I was doing. And so I showed them how to do it, but they would never do what I did. Does that make sense?
Hold on. No. Run that by me again. You said that.
So I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So working out, I was in the health club business at a young age, right? My brother had health clubs, so I was always kind of like in there as his little brother, right? And
Hmm.
so people would come in, and I remember that certain people would either want to work out to gain weight, get bigger, lose weight, whatever. So you have to kind of ask those questions, right? And then we put together a basic little program for them and say, okay, when you come into the gym, pick up this chart, and these are your exercises you do on a daily basis to achieve these goals, right? It can be 30, 60, 90 days. And in the health club business, what I started realizing that people would join in January and they would fade out around May,
Hmm.
right? The same thing with the insurance business. I was 27, didn't know anything about insurance, but I passed that test and I just worked hard for about 3 months. And within that 3 months, I started making really good income. And I had a few friends, a few people come to me, man, what are you doing? What are you doing, Renee? So I told them, so, well, I got the insurance license. I'm working with a couple of insurance companies, and this is what I did. And I fell into a company where I can be able to build a little team. And I started realizing we were doing Saturday trainings, teaching on sales skills, overcome objections, daily habits, right? We took all the John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, I did it all, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just realized that people are not tough, right? Majority of people are just not tough enough, or they utilize excuses. And you and I both know in sales, when you're getting bombarded back with no's and no's, some people just don't take those no's very well.
No.
So instead of getting better and finding, okay, why are you telling me no? Are you telling me no because you don't understand what I'm sharing? Or is it the product, it is not what you're wanting, right? So when it comes down to insurance, basically insurance is a need, but you have
Mhm.
health insurance, you have life insurance, you have car insurance, you have homeowners insurance. So it's really just figuring out what is it that people need. And you have to
It's something
go
that
through.
nobody really wants. This conversation I've had.
Right.
Actually, matter of fact, I had a situation happen recently, man. I had the insurance. I don't know if you know about this. This is back in March. I had a Mercedes blow up on me. Like I'm talking about the engine
Wow.
just like blew up, caught fire. I'll show you pictures later. And
Wow.
it's stuck in the parking garage in my building too. So like all the sprinklers and all that stuff came down. And because I didn't have a specific fire damage insurance, even on the comprehensive, something weird in Florida, it was a manufacturer defect. So I mean, it was something electrical, but they're pointing to the insurance company. The insurance company is pointing to the manufacturer. And I'm like, what am I paying you guys for? Like
Right.
insurances. And so same thing that people have with renters insurance, homeowners insurance. It's one of those things where you have to have. If you don't have enough of it, you're screwed. If you don't
Right.
have it, you're screwed. It's like, how do you sell that to people? That's something because I've heard that insurance is a really lucrative business. I've been selling, technology for the last 11 years, and
Right.
I hear like all this money that you could be making in insurance. I'm like, who the fuck wants to buy insurance? I mean, it's one of those things you have to do. Like you got to brush your teeth in the morning. Or it's more like taxes. Nobody really lines up to which IRS agent do I want to talk to or deal with. It's more
Right.
like, it's all something I got to do and I don't want to do. So how does insurance? How does that?
I guess what happened with me was that I was at 27. I was 30,000 in debt. I just got out of the health club business with my older brother and a partner. They were up in Arkansas. I moved back home to Louisiana,
Mhm.
and mainly just I just couldn't figure out how to get to the higher level. Right, my brother owned a company. His partner, we never saw eye to eye, And so I said, you know what, heck with you. Now I was one of the top sales reps for
Mhm.
his health clubs, but I just couldn't figure out, at that point in my life what I wanted to do. Right. So I came back home. Insurance was not on my radar. I was approached by insurance agents for years because I've always been good at sales or management. And this guy sat down on my table one night. He shared with me that I had to switch my insurance from Arkansas to Louisiana. I filled out the application. I started asking him some questions about how does he like his career. And he's told me, so I got into it from a position in my life to where I was looking for a career, right? So when I
Right.
started it, when I started realizing that people need health insurance, they don't really need life insurance, right?
Really?
When you think about it, what happens is from a health insurance perspective, it gives you a comfort zone to know when you walk into an emergency room or a hospital and you have something of an ailment that
Hmm.
you can walk out of there easy with a five, $10,000, $30,000 bill after going into an emergency room, right?
Right, of course.
So it's like it's more of a psychological thing, but it really is it's comfort. So having insurance is really more of even though yes, sometimes insurance companies just really just tick you off because of certain circumstances, but majority of the time if you understand how to get around some of the different loopholes, you're
Mhm.
going to get your money. You're going to get them to cover a claim, right? So health insurance was more of an easier thing to where I just call clients who are interested in health insurance. I showed them different plans, whether PPO, HMO, major medical, different price points, what they can afford, and did that, right? And then through that process, then at the same time, when it comes down to life insurance is difficult, but at the same time, you have to look at it from the perspective that if you're a husband and a wife and you have children and you have responsibilities, you're nothing but an income. That's all we are. We're just an income producer. We're on this world. We wake up each day, we make money. Now, if I die and we have a house that has $400,000 loan, you have two cars in the driveway, you got three kids that need to go to college, right? The wife doesn't make maybe 50, 80,000, if let's just say 100,000 a year. But if you're making 100, 200,000 or whatever, and you die, your income just stopped. So
Mm.
if you want to protect your family, whether husband and wife, you want to make sure you have at least some type of life insurance protection, saying that when you pass away, bam, you might be gone. They're going to cry about you, but do you want your family to lose their home, kids not go to college, things of that nature? Does that make sense?
I feel like that's the same comfort as the health insurance. For
It is.
example, because like I mean, if you think of auto insurance, you get caught without auto insurance, you're going to jail. If you get caught without health insurance, you just got a big bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the auto insurance is two things too. It's the same thing that, I know some people say, if I don't have insurance, I go to jail. But at the same time, you're saying, okay, well, if somebody hits me that doesn't have insurance and I'm sitting here with a brand new car, well, I'm fucked.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's why if you have a loan, excuse my French, but
No, no,
that's
it's all good. This is
when you
that's a
have a
real
loan
podcast.
from a bank, that's why the banks and the lenders, a house mortgage, if you have a mortgage or anything, you have to have insurance, right?
Hmm.
Because the banks want to make sure that, hey, if anything happens, fire, tornado, hurricanes, or whatever, which you're in Miami, so I don't know if were you affected with that storm?
Oh no, no, no. That actually it kind of passed by. Hit other areas of Florida. Hit Georgia really bad. Actually, the town where my sister is in, they've got no water or lights. I mean, or power.
Wow.
They said it might be Tuesday or longer before they get it. But no, but go on, go on. I know exactly what you're talking
No, but
about.
just when you think about those things, that's what insurance is designed for, is just to help us know that hey, our things that we work hard for, we're protecting it, right? But the sad thing is we're insurance poor in today's world. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just too much, right? When you come down to warranties on vehicles, just like you said, I'm fighting a warranty company right now that because I fixed the vehicle before they approved it, there
Hmm.
was a transmission before they approved it, I fixed it, and then they're telling, well, because you fixed it before we approved it, it's not approved. Does that make any sense?
No, not at all. That's why I hate these companies, man. You said insurance is like a bad word to me. But I mean, I've heard that it's really lucrative, but I've also heard that they get a lot of agents, especially new agents.
Right.
And then I've got some veteran agents who, if they didn't build the big downline to kind of titrate out, not titrate, but like have a trickle down residual from
Right.
when the economies change, it's not so much. Like they receive
Right.
a lot of friction in terms of the door to door interactions. Or, I mean, I think like everything from the Primericas and all the other MLM companies or
Right.
the big companies where they hire agents and they try to make it where an agent can make it his own agency and get more reps underneath. They
Hmm.
seem to be really saturated. So like how could you explain that? Like as you said that right now we're in a pretty insurance poor,
Yeah.
environment right now, even though we've actually everybody could agree that it's necessary, if not required. It's a great nice to have. What are
Mhm.
some of the reasons why that deals don't go through? What are some of the reasons that people go insurance poor versus having it? I'll tell you, for me personally, I've only times I've ever had all these different insurance things have been when I've been employed with companies and it was part of the benefits package. Whenever
Right.
I've separated from companies or gone off on my own ventures like this podcast and such, I go and I'll look at like the Cobra, the extension care, or the healthcare marketplace will kind of call up, and I'm just like, dude, this is like another car. This is like another car note to get
Right.
health insurance that I don't even use. I'm super healthy. I never
Right.
even.
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking insurance is great. If I get in a car accident or I need emergency surgery, that's awesome. But everything else, I'm like, I'm healthy as a horse. So paying $500-600 a month extra when I guess maybe that just used to
Right.
come out of my check. I didn't even realize it was probably that much. I'm pretty sure it was a lot less, maybe half of that. Why do you think we're now so insurance poor when it's so necessary and people really can all agree, hey, I need to have this?
In today's world, it's like insurance is like I'm self-employed. Okay.
Hmm.
So now I've worked at everything. I've worked with corporate companies, et cetera. And I've always had insurance with those companies because I said, well, heck, I mean, a couple of dollars comes out. But I know from a health insurance perspective, from my perspective, I've had issues. Okay. I'm pretty healthy, but I've had like blood clots hit me somewhere in 2009
Oh,
and I didn't have insurance. So I had to go to the hospital it was called Charity Hospital, right? So because I didn't have traditional insurance, I had to go sit in these hospital rooms with other. How can I say this? When you're on Medicaid and things of that nature, it's another world.
wow.
You don't have choices on
Hmm.
what doctor you want to go to. Does that make sense?
Right, right.
So it's just that, okay, so why do I pay for insurance as I'm self employed? I pay for health insurance for myself, life insurance, and I have a cancer policy. I have certain little policies on my own because I know that the benefit of it is I have a choice. I have options. I have places where I want to go to and places I don't want to go to. So I work very hard to pay for that little extra security, knowing that I have a choice not to go where I don't want to go. Does that make sense?
I think so. Now, what's the barrier between with getting with most people in America or people that you'll talk to back in that time? What's keeping them from being able to do that? Is it a lack of knowledge around what's available? Do they just kind of throw their hands up and be like, I give up. I don't. It's just too complicated. What are?
It's a lack of knowledge because
Mhm.
there's programs out there right now that if you have the right health insurance agent or the right life insurance agent, the right auto insurance agent. So because I kind of do both. I kind of do both. So through the years, I get people call me because I kind of find the best solution for them. Now, if I can't do it, I have enough friends that I've made in the community or in the industry that we work together. So it's a collaboration, right? So I don't do the health insurance anymore because health insurance back then was very lucrative. So it's not as lucrative right now for insurance agents, but I do have a few guys who that's what they do. That's all they do, and for them, they're happy, right? So that's fine.
Okay.
And so I send it to them to help out with the health insurance, right? When it comes down to auto insurance or commercial insurance, things of that nature, that's something that I handle, and I broker myself through some other agencies. So we're finding solutions for people that can help them with whatever they're currently doing. If they're buying a property, they need to get insurance, they need to protect it. Same thing with commercial auto insurance, right? So if you have a company, you need to have, let's say if your car is in the company name, so there's two different lives. You have personal life and you have business life. So
Mhm.
what I help people understand is that sometimes I set up companies so I'm not on my personal. I work off my business, right? So when you do that, though, you have to have commercial insurance when it comes down to either certain types of properties or vehicles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's all about education. It's all about information. I never sell. I educate people on understanding why they need something and options we can get them to where it's affordable and the benefits. Does that make sense? So that's for me is what sales I think that's why I've done good in pretty much most of the things that I've done, mainly because I don't like sales, right? I mean, when I walk on a car lot, and I've worked with car dealerships,
Mhm.
so I work with them. So I tell even today, if I walk on a car lot, they pretty much know, hey, listen, you just understand I'm here for one reason, to figure out if this is something I want to do. I don't need the sales pitch. I don't need all that. I just want to see the car, the numbers, see if it makes sense. If you can give me a good interest rate, we got a deal, right? For most that don't have that information or that knowledge, they get sucked into this vacuum cleaner, right? And so I don't like salespeople who come off salesy. I
Mhm.
work with people who work with me just like I want to be worked with. So I try to do the same thing with people that I know that we all are being sold something every day, all day long from something. And it's all about if that something is going to help me get to where I want to get to. And at the same time with a person, where I can help them step by step to get them where they want to go to, whether it's an insurance product or life insurance, whatever it may be. I'm dealing with financing right now. So you have a lot of banks that are not financing businesses because they're very, very strict right now on what they can and can't do. So I've got into the secondary market of lending because these are family offices or private equity groups that these guys are the ones who are really working the world today. And so it's kind of helped me understand another way of how to help people. When a bank says no, that doesn't mean no. It just means they are saying no. That doesn't mean there's other lenders out there that are going to fund your project or um, equipment, cash flow, whatever it is you need, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I help educate on that because I've been dealing with finance, geez, I think for like 20 something years personally with my own life. Plus, when you're buying real estate, I'll give you a scenario on that one. So I had, let's say I was 35 and I had about 35 real estate properties at the time. And
Yeah.
so this is right around Hurricane Katrina. And at the time, I would go to my bank and call them up and say, listen, I'm looking at this property, this property, this property. These are the numbers. I'm getting them for this price. They're going to be worth this after I put X amount of dollars into it. And a certain banker, I think he might have had like 10 of my properties. And he told me, no, I can't have any more properties. And I said, what do you mean I can't have any more properties? So I got off the phone with him. I called another friend of mine who was a broker. So he wasn't part of a single bank. He was a broker. So it gives more options
More
to different
options. Yeah.
lenders. Well, he told me, so Renee, don't listen to him. We can take two of the properties, put it with this company, this and whatever. So within 30 days, I bought all four properties in one day. I made
Oh.
150,000 at one day. The
Hmm.
banker calls me up like 60 days later because my credit bureau, I got some things hit my credit bureau, and he went off on me. He said, man, Renee, what the crap? I said, dude, let me tell you something. Don't ever tell me no. Tell me I can't do something. You couldn't do it. It wasn't me that couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did you get any blowback on that deal or anything, or it all worked
Yeah,
out?
it worked
And
out
it was
perfect.
like a lesson. It taught you, don't
Yeah,
let one person.
that was a beautiful deal. I bought some good properties. I made good money,
Hmm.
and it opened my eyes up to again when people it's like the nose, right? When you think about nose, when you're selling something, you got to look at it from a perspective that not everybody can understand or needs whatever you have at the time. So I'm not expecting
Hmm.
somebody to buy my product or my service today. I'm just letting you know this is what I do. If you ever need anybody for help, advice, or anything, think of me.
Do you ever think that that's a good little nugget that you can give for emerging, or what I like to say, born again salespeople? There's a lot of people who they've gotten burnt out, and
Okay.
and this is what you want to get back. Sometimes you need to really get that fire back. I've been defeated and beaten to the ground. I always say that salespeople have, and I've only been doing this like 11 years. I'd
Right.
say salespeople we willfully torture ourselves for a living. And would you say that would be a good blurb to put, like to say, hey, this is the Renee stamp of approval. Say. Um, yeah, there's always, just because I have something now doesn't need it for everybody or somebody else.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing it all wrong, just butchering the hell out of what you just said. But
No, but I'm gonna put. I mean, I've been trying to go through. So getting back on what's your passion. So what your
Mhm.
passion was designed mainly for me to be able to really coach people on the basics of different avenues of where they are and where they want to be. And sometimes when you do that, it's your mind because have not been exposed to certain leaders or certain mentors or certain people. That's why people just don't understand, why do I network so much? Why do I go to events so much? Why do I talk to so many people every day? Because everything is a process. This mind is like a computer system, right? So if you're not putting the right information in, you can't output the language. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that's just like with this, what I said earlier. So a reason I can say that I don't treat sales as sales. I want people to know who I am and what I do, what I believe in, what I offer. And you might not need what I have today, but you may need it somewhere in the future, or you might know someone that might need what I offer. So if you wouldn't mind, can you just think of me and share with anybody who I might be able to help? So if I can help serve people is pretty much my mentality. I'm a servant. So I've looked at it on my life always from childhood that I love to make people feel better about themselves or help them to know when I walk away, my name is Renee Manfre, right? And that's what I'm trying to also instill into people. Like, we're brands. That's all we are. Is we're a brand. So it's amazing how many people think about George Clooney, Brad Pitt, who's the best. I mean, I have friends of mine know every football player on every team. I have no clue. I have no care because it's not my life. Right. Now, if I knew each person, I had $1 or something attached to it, I would probably remember the name. Right. But that's where people are lost right now. They know more about all this other stuff instead of themselves saying, hey, what you are the brand. You need to look at yourself as a brand and start building yourself as a brand. So everybody, when they think of something, of whatever you offer, they think of you, right? So when they think of Jim McIver, when they think of Renee Manfre, they think of Armando. So what do? We do podcasts, and we teach and help people with their current passions, drives, solutions, things of that nature.
Let me ask you this, because I need a veteran's perspective on this, because Armando and I have gone back and forth with this a lot, because he's been self-employed ever since I've known him, since I was 15 years old. And it's a very different thing than when you work in like Fortune 500 companies like I have. And private equity backed companies. Basically is very different, so where I'm getting at that is, what I want to get your take on is, how could someone who works within the constraints of a company as a rep leverage the type of advice and sage wisdom that you're giving? Let me set the table for this, where I'm leading you. So you say, I feel as though that the solopreneur, the entrepreneur, self-employed person who runs their own shop has the luxury to be able to network enough and talk to enough people, and eventually, hey, I might have what you need, maybe not now, maybe later, versus, let's say you're on the sales team at a company, you're getting the salary, you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, and you've got a quota to hit, and you've got 3 months to do it. And so that's why a lot of the big trainers and stuff, this is when Armando and I, when I started consulting him, taking him on as a client last year, well, maybe almost 2 years ago, and we were going over the processes and how to do things. And he's like, your follow-up needs to be about this. Don't make it about selling. I'm like, you need to push this deal forward. And he's like, well, no, they're going to do it. I was like, dude, you can't forecast deals without knowing when they're going to do it. And you've got to move people through in a proper way. So, and also too, because if you were a representative at a company, you got a quota to hit. You're already taking money on the front end by yourself, by your base salary, which means you've got to move your deals forward. You don't have the luxury to just, schmooze with people, just network, just let them know who you are. Hey, we're here. No, I got the fucking internet. I know you're here.
Right.
Well, how do you think that, do you think that these things are two completely different worlds that shall never meet? Or is there some way to look into it? Like, for example, I try to reduce friction in my life and in my sales processes to kind of use a little bit of that. Like, I want to have the mindset that, hey, I want to be able to talk and help enough people. So what I did was I just 3x'd how much prospecting I'm doing. Whereas most reps in all the different companies I've been working in, we have a calendar full of people who are, inbound leads, and they're coming through. I just try to 3x how many meetings that I'm having. So I have the luxury. I try to buy myself the luxury to just help instead of force people through a sales pipeline. So if I do that, maybe I can have less stress, because less stress comes through over the Zoom, over the phone, face to face. If I present the need that, hey, I don't really need your deal today. Like, what was it? One of these big guys I watch, Myron Golden. He's like, hey, I don't care if you buy or not.
Right.
You're a multi-million-dollar company. You're the guy. Hey, I'm
Right.
not. Well, what about the 22-year-old sales guy, sales gal who's trying to make a name for themselves in this? They got a quota to hit. They've got to, they got to make their nut based on, what salary they're taking home, the technology that they're using. That's all, that you're already in the hole and you're working for a company. You've got to make that up. So
Right.
what would you say in your decades of experience in different lanes? Would these two things are just different? So like entrepreneurship versus under a company umbrella, or is there some way that because majority of my audience here, especially on LinkedIn, we're all company people.
Right.
What could we take from you from this?
Let me make this real simple. Are
Hmm.
you familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Oh yeah, cash
Okay.
flow quadrant.
So when you look at
Hmm.
ESBI, right? Employee, self-employed, business owner, investor.
Investing.
When I'm hired on with a company, I'll give you my example for me.
Hmm.
Any opportunity that I was working for someone, I looked at it, yes, I am employed. I am an employee, but I'm Renee Manfre, and I'm going to bring you more value for me to be here, right? So when I started understanding this concept in my mind, this is back again. This is 1980s, right? This is when I first started working, and I looked at it from the perspective that I wanted to make people like me,
Hmm.
respect me, and appreciate me. Does that make sense?
Okay,
So
I'm
when
with
I
you.
got hired on a business, I looked at it as if I can drive my sales, if I can outwork everybody else around me, they will not want to ever fire me.
Okay.
So what happens is you have to go into mindset that I am a brand. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're working for a company, hey, you're working for the company, you're an employee, but you give that company just like you would on your own if you were at your own business. Does that make sense? How can I say that? So as a subcontractor, okay, so I've been a subcontractor for a lot of people for a long, and from a consulting perspective.
Hmm.
So if somebody's hiring me to do something, I want to outperform. I want to do everything I can to make sure that they get value, right? So if they get value, what are they going to do? They're going to want more, right? They're going to want to keep me around. They want to keep on paying me, right? So I guess psychologically, I was doing this ever since I was young because I said, you know what? I'm not treating this as a job. And that's where I think the difference with most people, they're showing up to a job and their mentality is, oh man, I can't stand this job. I want to be self-employed. Well, once I sit down with you and help you understand from a self-employed perspective, it ain't so pretty.
It's not. Everything costs so much money.
And you're responsible for everything that you
Okay.
don't even understand. You don't even understand what's going on in the back end with an employer, insurance, taxes, expenses, insurance, all the overhead that is not a luxury from an employer perspective that he's paying you every week. Sometimes that money's not in his pocket
Hmm.
because the companies out there didn't pay. I'll give you an example for me. My lawn care business is a good business, but I got people who owe me, and these are companies that owe me. So I have to sometimes go in debt to make sure that my payroll, my equipment, my fuel keeps operating, right? And I have seen so many companies go bankrupt because they get in bed with corporate companies sometimes and they're thinking, man, I'm working for this government company. Well, you just now spent 50,000, 100,000 on payroll over the last 30, 60 days, and you're waiting for them to pay you that lump sum. Well, don't think they're going to send you that lump sum
Mm.
because sometimes they just trickle. I worked for a staffing business when I was 24,
Okay.
and this was my big experience right here. So here I am. My job was to manage people would come in for that wanted to be, carpenters, etc. I would go out and I would sell to construction companies that listen. Instead of you hiring on people, I can supply you with labor. I can supply you with truck drivers. I can supply you with forklift drop, whatever you need. And all y'all pay is whatever, let's say $30 an hour. Well, out of that $30 an hour, I'm paying a guy 15, and out of that rest. So companies loved it because they didn't have to hire people. They would basically just say, hey, Renee, send me 3 people. They're going to try him out. If they didn't like a guy, they would call me, Renee, take this guy back. I don't want him. Send me another one, right? But when you're in a hiring process, you can't do it so easily in the corporate world. You
Right.
can't just hire and fire people so quick, right? So that's why companies use staffing, because it's easier. So
Hmm.
I was working with
Oh,
some of
I
the
didn't know
top.
that. No,
Huh?
that's something new. Because I was wondering why, because you get some companies, they'll have outsourced staffers, and then some they'll have an HR department that does it all. You just taught me something new.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you, it's like I guess I've learned so much through my years because I'm not scared of learning. And
Uh-huh.
some people say, Renee, why don't you just focus on one thing? So, dude, I mean, I don't need to.
Well, fuck all that.
I don't need to focus on one thing because my brain works very well because I've learned instead of me going to school and listening to people who don't know anything, I've just learned from people who are actually doing it, right? And for me, it opened my eyes up because at that time, here I am, 24 years old, running a multi-million dollar, company. I didn't even realize it. We were just like a little office. But I guess I started seeing that, man, we're spending 30, 50,000 a week on payroll. And then my boss would say, Renee, you need to get Miss Gloria on the phone with whatever company, and we need it. We have a $30,000 invoice. I would call Miss Gloria. This is Renee at Labor Finders. I need to get that. I need to get that invoice. Renee, baby, I'm sorry, I can't give you. But come on over. I'll give you 15,000. Miss Gloria, you owe me 30,000. I know, Renee. I'm sorry, but so I tell my boss. He would go ballistic. So think about this. This is what's happening with the world today. And I'm in my situation now. I can carry 30 to 50,000 a month because companies are owing me for the services we're providing.
Right.
And sometimes I have to get my manager, my employees to understand that, guys, when y'all break a window, that's sometimes $400 to $600. In the beginning of this year, I must have spent $5,000 on miscellaneous windows, right? Because they're not paying attention. And it's not their fault all the time, but it's miscellaneous expenses I wasn't expecting, right?
Right.
You have equipment. Equipment breaks down, right? That sometimes is not cheap to fix these machines that I got, right? So these machines used to be like 10,000, now they're 16,000. To fix it, luckily I got some good guys in my warehouse that fixed the machines for me.
Yeah.
But when I first started, I had to send them to these shops, and these shops would rate me, right? 400, 500, 600 for oil change, all kind of BS, right?
Right. Right.
So I guess what I'm sharing with you is that when you're hired on with a company, you have to understand that people are watching you every minute of the day. So you have to treat yourself as a self-employed person, even though you're employed, so you can build the skills of being self-employed. And if you treat that employer like you are self-employed, like everything really rides on you, you will see that those people will give you raises or give you more opportunities. So people who, when I first started with certain sales opportunities, they would feed me more leads because I was producing, I was showing up, I was trying to get better, I was asking questions. Whereas some other people would be outside smoking a cigarette, talking bullshit,
Yeah.
taking 10 breaks in a freaking day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I try to help people understand that I work with a lot of tugboat companies. I have a transportation business that
Uh-huh.
I've been doing we started about 14 years ago. So a friend of mine, Scott, we've been friends for like 35 years. And he called me up one day. We both went through a little bit of a crunch back in 2010. In real estate came down. He was doing mortgages. I was doing real estate. And he called me up one day and asked me if I can go help him pick up this guy. And I said, for what? So, well, I just now started this hotshot business, moving people. I said, well, cool, I'll go try it. So me and him got started. That company's grown into almost a $2 million company. I still work on some parts of it with bringing in some companies, and I still drive. And I enjoy it because I drive to places where some people don't even know. I can go from here to Kentucky. I see things on the water that most people don't see. And what I tell most of these guys are starting out from day one, making 190 to 200 and something dollars per day. Now, being a deckhand on these boats is not easy, and you're away from your family for 30 days or so. So that's the hardest part about it, right? But I tell them, so guys, My guys make 130, 140 to 150 a day, and they're busting their butt all day. So what y'all have is an opportunity in an industry that very few people understand. So as long as you show up, you have a good attitude, and you work, you will be guaranteed you will never lose your job, for one. But if you keep on getting better, you can move up to 300 to 400, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes they don't understand that most of these guys don't have personalities. They don't have sales skills. They don't have the things that you and I have had to build, right? But I tell them, don't relax and get comfortable, because things change. So if you don't have a little side business, start one today while you're self-employed. Two, the benefit of doing that is you're going to start understanding what and how a business owner thinks, because you're doing things that help you get started. At the same time, the tax benefits to that, if you're making 100, 200,000 a year, you're going to be taxed to death, right? So if I can show you how to get $10,000, $20,000 of that money back, would that be something?
Absolutely.
So that's why I tell everybody should have an LLC.
Right
And
on.
that's what people just don't understand. So why should I have an LLC? I don't even know what business. It doesn't matter. Just start up an LLC. I don't care if it's grass cutting, consulting. I do. I mean, these days you can be a creator. You got an LLC, right?
You got
I
an
mean, I'm a
Instagram
creator.
account, a couple followers. You got a content creation business, right?
I mean,
I like how
I
you
can.
brought that I like how you brought that, swung that around and brought something that I didn't think that you would, and it really stuck out to me. I'm thinking everybody who hates their job, I see people post about it all the time, all over Facebook, Instagram. They
Yeah,
make funny jokes about how much they hate their job, and it's because they don't understand what really goes into it. Like,
correct.
I've been separated for some companies for some different reasons, from budgeted reasons, or I didn't understand it. I'm like, hey, this actually most recent company I was working with, how do I get penalized for being good at my job? Because I was the most expensive employee. But yeah, what you got was a guy who worked great. He's got has a proven track record. I'm carrying a team, but still, because there was a certain things I didn't understand about how the money goes outside. And most people, employees, that's why you're in that. We should have a whole other conversation about the cash flow quadrant, because I tell people this all the time. People who hate big business and investors, or billionaires shouldn't exist, or people think, oh, the tax, they're rich, they don't understand. Hey, they're the ones that are not taking a salary while you're eating every week. They're the ones that put up all the risk and has to take care of payroll. Like you said, go into debt sometimes just to make sure you're getting paid and your family's getting fed. So you can complain
Yeah,
that it's not enough based upon what you do. And so they deserve like certain tax breaks and stuff like that. And now you said, this is great advice to any person who's maybe feeling stagnant in their sales career or starting out.
right.
Think like you're self-employed. And I'll take it a step further. If I were to piggyback on it, I'd say anybody who has got gripes about their job or the company they work in, quit and start a business. So you can really see, kind of like people who I feel like people should always work in some service industry, like as
Yeah,
an adult. Like there's a few things people need to be doing to do as an adult. Like, you got to register for the draft and stuff like that. I think everybody should work in some service industry. So like waiting tables or bartending or something. And I think, everybody should try their hand at doing a business. You can figure out how good you are at it. Maybe
right.
you don't waste a lot of time being an employee, or you learn that being an employee is actually more of what's in your wheelhouse. Because everybody can't be business owners. Everybody can't be investors.
No, no. And this is where you and I and Armando. I mean, the reason I started What's Your Passion is not to where it's just me being a coach. What's Your Passion for me is going to grow into a multi-channel business, to where I have different people and resources and coaches like yourself underneath the brand and with inside the brand, because I can't cover everything. And when people come in, sometimes they can relate to certain people that might have a skill or something I might not have. Like right now, I'm not great at doing websites. I'm not great at doing graphics. I'm not great at doing, funnels and landing pages. Now, do I know how to do the basics? Yes, I can do the basics. But when people come in, and that's what I think they need to, have their social media channels looking like they're professional, right? That's first thing. Two is, how do you do the graphics? Well, if you don't know how to do it, then go to Canva or go to some different programs. If you're not willing to learn it, then reach out to somebody who can make you a graphic, right? Or a logo or whatever. So the challenge with people is that they're not realizing, because nobody's helping them understand, there is no perfect time to start a business. There is no magical moment. You have to start learning and earning and teaching and exposing yourself to all of this stuff, because being a business owner is not just, hey, I know how to do hair. I'm great at doing hair. Well, if you don't know how to promote yourself and you don't know how to market yourself, you don't know how to build relationships, you don't know how to network, you don't, then it does, yeah, you can cut hair, but nobody knows you can cut hair because you don't know how to market yourself. But that's
Accounting,
with social media, right? Social
accounting.
media, does that make sense?
Hmm. I was gonna say accounting. Know how to do. I've seen a lot of people with good exposure, good intent, good skill, but accounting is their downfall. Me
Oh,
is
yeah.
one of them. I'm actually taking courses on accounting just to be able to handle my own finances and mix them with my W-2 stuff and my consulting stuff as well, just
Right.
because to manage it. Because especially when you're making good money,
Right.
my financial plan for all my adult life has been I'm good at sales. Money's always coming in. Make it, make it, make it, spend it as fast as you make it. And then how to actually grow and scale a company that has a life of its own. You know, my business actually is a life, like my own person you're talking to right now.
Right.
I didn't even realize that, man. It's a lot of stuff. You know, I'm ADHD. I'll probably get off the rails talking about a bunch of stuff, but
Yeah, I
I
mean,
was,
accounting is, you ever when you're in a business, you need to have your P and L and your profit and loss statements and a balance sheets. So the banks, when you're growing your business, if you're trying to grow your business or grow anything, and you're needing a lend or need a loan or whatever, these are the basic things that people are looking for. They're looking for your credit report. They want to know your personal credit score, and I'll show you business credit score. So you have two scores, and
Mhm.
most people don't realize that they have two scores.
Oh,
So you have Duns and Bradstreet, which is a number. Okay, so that's your business number.
hmm,
So it's kind of like a social security number. So when banks and lenders are looking at you, they're looking at you from your personal credit score that needs to be 680 plus.
hmm,
You're right. You want to pay attention to paying your bills, right? So as long as you're good on paying your bills, things of that nature, and they can see that you have good habits, right? It's all about habits. The same thing with business. As you're building your business credit, now over time, your business credit basically now becomes your new way of funding. So right now, I buy trucks through my business because it's easier. It's freaking
hmm.
easier. It's crazy. I mean, I bought a Ford truck, no money out, no money down, because it went through my business credit. Right now, when it comes down to your accounting, so again, you're not going to be, if you're not good at accounting, just hire an accountant. I mean, paying an accountant to just kind of manage your QuickBooks and stuff, it is so worth it. And I made the mistake by not doing that in the very beginning. But now I have a good CPA, I have a good accountant that they're helping me build my numbers, build my stuff to where it's more consistent. Because at the end of the year, here's my income, here's my expenses. So that's why I don't pay too much. So I learned this when I was working at oil refineries, when I was right out of high school, about 3 years into 2 years, I was making a lot of money. Back then in 1989, yeah, 1989 or so, it was like $18 an hour, but I was working like 18 hours a day, right? Anything I could to make money. And when I would get my checks, I was always ticked off. It's like it should have been a $3,000 check, and it was only a $1,500 check, right? And that's when I told my CPA I want my money back. And he told me, "So okay, let's set up an LLC." So I've been having LLCs ever since I was pretty much in my early 20s, and it's
Hmm.
for that reason, for that one reason:
Got it.
taxes. So when Uncle Sam looks at my numbers and I show him, here's my tax return, that how much I made this year, but this is my expenses. So I write off everything that I can write off: clothes, glasses, oil changes, phone bills, trips, everything. But most people are not aware of it because they never listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad, or they never really listen to why the wealthy are wealthy, why the poor are poor. It's because we're not exposed to the same thinking.
Right.
Like my father, he worked for corporate America, so he couldn't really teach me the business side. But my brother was where I really learned most of my business side and my sales side of my life, because that's what I was surrounded with him every weekend at the health club, right? And watching him and he's telling me what to do, how to talk to people, and how to get people to look at you in the eyes, how to have a firm handshake. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
These are
yeah.
principles, and I'm telling you right now, brother, it gets me very passionate because I'm seeing so many kids that are 24 years old that don't know how to just look you in the eyes. They're not confident. They can't even give you a handshake. I was running a
They grew up on
multi-million
these
dollar company
devices.
at 24 years old. Why? I think about this. I mean, I guess when I was 15 and 16, I was the youngest. So for me, I had two older brothers and a sister. So I was exposed to the older world fast. So all my friends really were older than me. And I had like three different friends. I had high school friends, but I had these other groups of friends for my brothers and my sister. So it kind of helped me kind of grow faster. But at the
Hmm.
same time, that's where I guess our name and everything else for me and my older brothers had, they had, a lot of people knew us, right? So it kind of gave me that confidence, I guess you could say, to grow
Yeah.
into this. But I see today, and again, I was just having this conversation with my family today, that the kids these days, they don't really understand that anything about life. They don't really understand how to build relationships. They don't know how to network. They don't understand they're just being around the house and taking care of the things around the house and just earning their way, right? They expect everything to be given to them. And I guess for me, I'm seeing it that these kids are just not being taught because of, being single parents or parents don't have time or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. But what's your passion for me is I'm looking at creating a what's your passion for kids, and then
Yes, I'd
what's your
say
passion,
definitely something like that because it starts there. Because I didn't even really most of what's really turned into my life right now into a really great place. I didn't really learn until like way later into my 30s. I'm 38 years old now. I still
right?
don't feel like I'm in the middle age. I feel like I just started my adult life because a
Right.
lot of stuff that other kids had learned before. And dude, and I was in private school. I had great grades. I went to university, and all this stuff is just a lot of other things I wasn't exposed to. I wasn't exposed to a lot of employees. And so I started making friends with entrepreneurs in my
Mhm.
late 20s, or when I became an entrepreneur. I first became an entrepreneur, I was running, I don't know if you know this, my history. I started doing ballroom dancing with Armando when I was 15, finished high school.
Ballroom dancing?
Yeah, yeah. The next time you talk to Armando, tell him.
Really?
You never told me. He and this other guy, they were partners. They owned a ballroom dance studio in Georgia. And that was my high school job. I got to talk to real professional people too, a lot younger, where all my friends were working at Burger King and
Right.
whatever, stuff like that. I was teaching doctors and lawyers and important people ballroom dance as a kid in high school. And actually, all my 20s after college, I mean, I had one job. I worked under IT administrator at a doctor's office after college, and then I was like, you know what? I'm young. I'm gonna take this dance thing all the way. And I was running my own dance company. I was a yoga teacher, cycling instructor, all this stuff. Just pieced together my whole active fitness trainer. This is before anybody with a gym membership and an Instagram account could be a fitness influencer. But so I actually did the real work, and I was out there hustling and doing it. And but yeah,
That's
but I
crazy.
feel like a lot of the stuff that I picked up on, like now, like why am I 38 years old and just now learning accounting? You know what I mean? That stuff really would be good for kids to learn that their passion is before the world tells them what box they belong in and they stay bought into it.
Bingo.
Because yeah,
Bingo.
yeah.
So you did ballroom dancing, which is that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I still do. I haven't done a ballroom competition in years. And I think maybe 2019 was my last year like professionally performing and stuff like that. I still
Right.
teach private lessons here and there. It's a fun thing. I go out social dancing anywhere I'm at. I mean, I only kept my Facebook because if I'm anywhere in the world, whether I'm from London, Colombia, Atlanta, New York, I got somebody like, where's the dancing at? We're going.
Wow.
I've got that going for me. But yeah,
No,
I'm a
that's
baby.
good.
I'm a kid in this entrepreneur game. Getting to my first, X amount of dollars. That's big. I don't want to talk crazy on the podcast, but
So what is your IT like? What is the services that you provide today? Like, what are some of the main sales or
Mhm.
services that you provide for IT or
Oh,
software?
okay. For software, what I do is I work in a very specific in a specific sector of IT, the MSP channel. So basically, I work for vendors that sell to managed service providers everything that they need to do, they need to actually perform to provide managed IT services. So let's say that any type of software, let's say that just to keep it just agnostic from all the companies, depending on let's say that for Microsoft 365, every MSP provides your email security and all that stuff. Well, they've got to buy that from Microsoft. They don't just have it on hand. or let's
Hmm.
say that they need to monitor and manage all of your devices remotely because there's only so many people that you can help in a day. You got a lot of customers, so you need a tool that allows you to monitor everybody and manage their stuff and fix their patches, all that stuff remotely. So I would work for a developer that I would sell that to these MSPs. Now in my consulting business, I work with a couple of MSPs that used to be customers of mine, and I'm actually helping them with their sales process, getting new clients. I'm actually making
Okay.
calls for them and helping them because
Hmm.
a lot of this is where the consulting game is great. I had issues with it before. People say who those who can't do teach. I'm like, man,
Right.
I'm great at teaching. And you know how you said in the beginning of our conversation, I my beginnings with people were teaching. I was teaching people ballroom dance. I
Right.
mean, I'm in
Right.
school for engineering in high school, but I leave and I'm teaching dance. So now that I've got a well documented successful history in this
Right.
channel in my sales, but then also I teach people and help train, like talking about making yourself more valuable. Most
Right.
sales reps are in to get their money and go. I've kind of created relationships that have stuck with executives and important people at companies that I've left because
Right.
I've made a brand for myself as teaching and helping. So
Hmm.
now I realize that people that I've either sold to or know, they've spent all their time getting so good at IT, getting good at doing hair, like you said,
Right.
have no idea how to portray that, how to set their goals, and how to actually execute on selling it and pricing it. So that's what I do now. I mean, mostly I've been working within my own network. I haven't really been marketing to be industry agnostic too much, kind of sticking with what I know for now.
Right.
But in terms of basically training, developing, and producing, helping you develop your processes and KPIs, um, developing your scripts, training your reps, or even coming in on a contract basis and
Right.
producing revenue. That's basically what my Lifecycle Sales HQ is about. And as a fractional sales consultant, where's much more of the development goes into. I'm actually starting with a company tomorrow. They're based out of Australia, so I'm going to be doing some.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So.
That's what I'm excited about so I started my consulting like I mean somewhere around 2011,
Mhm.
and before that I never really thought about it because I was an insurance agent with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I worked with Primerica. Um, I had my real estate stuff, but at the time around 2011, I started realizing that that's what I am,
Mhm.
right? I'm a consultant because
Yeah.
when you think about it from a teacher perspective, I'm a teacher, right?
Mhm.
So when you can't go around and say I'm a teacher or a teacher of what? No, so I'm not. I'm just a consultant. So it's like that's pretty much I think the transformation. It kind of went from teachers to consultants because that's what we are. We're
Yeah.
just basically helping people through the processes of what they want, what they need, and how to get it, and then we just make the pieces come together, right? So just
Except
like a real estate,
consultants have deliverables that have to be met.
huh?
Except consultants have deliverables that need to be met.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Cool.
but it's interesting, but it's the world we live in today. It's really starts like you said earlier is like the e-learning and what these podcasts are doing, and that's why I'm fired up on doing more podcasts because I learn more from podcast and from people online than I do in any classroom, and I learn faster. So I can watch a few videos all throughout the day, just little snippets, and I get so much value because I can learn fast. And I think some people are not really understanding the value of really where this industry is going. And when you look at where we are right now, even though it's huge, it's still it has so much more to go because people are starting to they're starting to learn and realize that the online you can learn from people like you and I a lot faster than going to a school and being in classes learning history, English, this, all the stuff that you don't need. And it's not saying that you don't need, but it depends on what you're wanting, right? Some people don't, like you're saying, they go to school for 4 years to get out, and they thought they wanted to be they thought they wanted to be an attorney. I have a good friend of mine I went to school with. He went to school. He was an attorney for a couple of years. He's doing tree business, and he loves his business. He's outdoors. He's making more money. He's free. He's not. He doesn't have to dress up in a tie every day, right? And the same thing with me. I had my lawn care business. I was doing insurance when I started the lawn care, where the lawn care superseded the insurance because of all the BS in the country. The grass doesn't stop. Trees don't grow. I mean, everybody needs. So, from an insurance perspective, I went through so much changes through the years because the corporate companies are changing their commissions, they're changing their stuff and everything else. So that's why I kind of backed out of the insurance a little bit, so I can kind of focus on, okay, really, what is it that I want? What is it that I enjoy doing? And I got to look at it from a perspective. Yeah, I can make money with insurance. I can make money with different things, but it's not my passion. My passion is really teaching, coaching, training, and helping people through the process of whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. Now, basically, I'm trying to figure out what is some systems that I can put in place that, or programs, whether it's affiliate marketing, whether it's different types of programs, because some people don't know they don't have a product. So sometimes you have to find a product that maybe they like to do, and I can help build them successful in that product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
So it's a combination of things, but I think I know from your perspective of what you're doing and everything else, it's just, I mean, that's a whole nother world that some people aren't even paying attention to. Is you need to have these systems, especially if you have big companies. You got to have protection. You got to have back end support and everything else. But some people don't think about it. But that's a great industry that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's take it off, man. I mean, you know what? That being said, I only asked you for 25, 30 minutes, but it was such a great conversation we're having.
I'm
So how
sorry.
about
I don't know how
this?
long we went.
No, we love it. Now that's when we know a whole lot more about what it is that you provide and really who you are. You know, Mondo's right. This is a great media. This is a great platform
Yeah.
or a media to, you know, really introduce and give people a look at who it is that they're really possibly going to be working with. You know, more than what anybody can pay a copywriter to put on a website. So how about this? Let's close it up here. What's like a little blurb that you can tell people about reducing friction in their business and going forward? And then how can we find you? How can we work with you?
I mean, I think the best way to reduce friction is, if whatever it is that you're having a fear with, find somebody who you feel that you can just ask some questions to and overcome those fears and become confident, right? So once you become confident and kind of understand a little bit, it gives you that oomph, right? So it's those baby steps. The second thing is, my website is manfreandassociates.com. That's where I pretty much put everything about myself, the different services and everything else that I render. I have my website, wypusa.com, which is What's Your Passion. Tonight, I just now set up my school to where now people can start going into the class, into the community, the What's Your Passion community. I would love to invite you, if you wouldn't mind,
I'd
and
love to
just
do
kind of
it.
become a collaborative into it, right? So
Mhm.
it's free. I just want to really get people in there, whether it's teachers or different people who want to learn, and just build a community to where we can kind of figure out what is it that people need, and maybe between us all, we can put together some curriculums to help them speed their process up faster. So I do appreciate you again having me on tonight, and I look forward to doing this more.
Absolutely. Hey, whenever you get an episode for me, I'm down to talk.
No, man, I'm going to hook you up. We're going to be doing a couple of these per month.
Okay, I'm down.
All
All
right,
right,
brother.
guys. Well, again, this episode of Frictionless Sales has been with Renee Manfre, Manfre Consulting, and What's Your Passion? I'm Jim McIver, CEO of Lifecycle Sales HQ and Brad Mac Fractional Sales Consulting. Guys, always helping you reduce friction in your sales processes, and I help you with process, procedures, training, and development. You guys have a great one, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, wait. Stop.